Hi everyone, it's Russian Girl and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about how sanctions affect everyday life in Russia. Not politics, just practical daily routine of a Russian person who lives in Russia. And I want to tell you what I personally observe in grocery stores, how traveling has changed, how car market has shifted in recent years, and how banking sector works right now. It's not an analysis, it's just my personal observations. So if you're interested, keep watching this video. An important reminder for those who are new to this channel: I live in St. Petersburg, Russia. St. Petersburg is the second biggest city in Russia. That's why maybe if you watch another Russian bloggers who live in small towns or in Siberia, for them situation can be different. It can be in this way, I accept this. But I will be talking from my point of view of a person from a big Russian European city, because Moscow in Russia we call like European part of Russia, because of technologies and all the facilities that we have in these cities. And let's start from the groceries and stores. I remember when the war just started, the special military operation, or how we call it, in Western media there were a lot of videos, a lot of information that basically all the shelves in the grocery stores in Russia are empty, that we're suffering here, we are really hungry, and all in this way. It's actually not quite true. There were some disruptions with particular products delivery, the products that left Russian market. For example, brand Coca-Cola. I will be talking about it a little bit later. But overall, there were no empty shelves. In St. Petersburg, in all those years, I have never seen empty shelves with any products. So the situation was normal and it's pretty stable as well right now. But some brands left Russia because of their company policies. But what is actually happening now is that we still have these products. Stores started to ask for the delivery of these products from the third countries. These third countries can be Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey, Kazakhstan, all the countries on the south of Russia that we have the border with, so we're connected with these countries. If before Coca-Cola was delivered directly to Russia, now Coca-Cola is delivered from these countries, and that's why, for example, the label on the bottle is not in Russian, it's written in some other language that I personally don't understand, like Russian people don't understand, because, for example, in Kazakhstan, they do speak Russian, but they have their own language. And that's why all is written in their language, and I don't really understand what is that, but I see brand Coca-Cola and the bottle looks exactly the same, so I know that it is Coca-Cola. So most of brands, they're now delivered through parallel import. But the thing is that, of course, because we need to use other ways to deliver products to Russia, these products, forbidden products, the brands that left Russia, they start to cost a little more here. It is a little noticeable, but still, I cannot say that Russian people start to be like, okay, we're not buying this because it's expensive. It's not in this way. So it's just the price changed a little. But what is interesting in all of this is that actually that these brands, very popular brands that left country, it gave space on the market for local brands. And that's why now, instead of one Coca-Cola, we have 5 different Coca-Colas. One Coca-Cola is from brand Coca-Cola, and another Coca-Colas that are the same beverage drinks, but from Russian brands. So in some way, it stimulated local producers to create the substitutes, the products that are similar to Coca-Cola. And I'm just giving one example, and it's actually about all the products that kind of left the country, and we now have different Russian locally produced substitutes for them. Of course, there are also brands that left completely. And mostly I'm talking about the clothing stores. For example, H&M, they are no longer present in Russia. But if you want to go shopping, we go, for example, to Belarus, our neighbors, and there they have H&M. The other brands, for example, Zara, they kind of left, but the brand left, but the store, it's still in Russia. It has been renamed. Now it's called Zarina, but all the clothes, all the models of the clothes are exactly the same that you will be able to find in the exactly right moment in the other countries in the stores of Zara. So they continue delivering, but the brand name is different now. And yes, in the very beginning, some stores were closed because they had to make all this, I guess, like administration process, legal process to make to rename the store, to put different labels. So for some time the stores were closed, and that was the time when marketplaces got their power. From that time, people started to focus more, to spend more time buying clothes on marketplaces. Like, we have at least 3 main ones, and that's why till now people really, most of the people prefer to buy things on marketplaces, because first, you can buy clothes without prepaying for it. So the clothes arrives to the office of Ozon, for example, one of the marketplaces. You go to this office. The offices are located in every building. You go to the office. There are changing rooms. You just check this clothes, how it looks on you, if it fits you, and if everything is okay, you're paying for it. If not, you're just giving it back. So you don't need to do anything additionally to return it. You don't need to go to the store. You don't need to prepay in advance. That is really comfortable. And it's convenient in the way that you can order as many different models and sizes as you want. Check it on your building, in the office of Ozon in the building, and then the ones that you don't like, you're just giving back, and you don't get any fee for that. The other change that we face here is, of course, with traveling. And personally for me, this is the hardest part of the sanctions. I will tell you why. First of all, there are no direct flights to European Union, for example. Asia is still available. There are flights, straight flights to Georgia, Kazakhstan, Turkey, from St. Petersburg, Moscow, from other Russian cities. But the thing is that if before I could buy a ticket to Milan, to Italy, for like $300 two ways, and it took me just like 3 hours to get to Italy. But now it's a little more complicated, because first I have to go to Turkey, for example, and after that I can go in any country of Europe, if I have visa, of course, because Europe Union, Russians need visa for it. And that is why before we used to go to Italy every winter with my family to spend there 1 week skiing in the mountains in Alps. And now it's complicated in the way that, first, of course, it's more expensive because, like, logistically the way is longer, and second of all, because it takes much more time. Just to go to Turkey is 4 hours, then the layover is around 2-3 hours minimum, and then back to Italy on south. But still, traveling is still available, and as I told you, there are these countries that are now like hubs. It's Turkey, it's Georgia, it's Kazakhstan. So if you want to travel, you're free to do that, but you need to spend a little more time and money. Also, you can ask me, what about visas? All European Union says that no visas to Russian people anymore, for them not to come and not to travel. But we all understand that European countries also need Russian tourists, because Russian tourists spend a lot of money in Europe. And the thing is that there were no disruption in my practice for all these years. 3 main countries were given visas: Italy, Spain, and France. Other countries, actually even before the sanctions, before the war, The only other country I was getting my visa in was Finland, but now unfortunately Finland is completely closed. And if before I could take a bus from St. Petersburg to Finland because we have a border, and I could be in Finland from St. Petersburg just in 3 hours. Now Finland is completely closed for cars, for buses, and for flights. Unfortunately, the same with Estonia. But again, I can get a visa. I was applying for my European visa just a few weeks ago. There are a lot of spots. It's not a problem to give the documents. One time it was a problem that it took much time to book an appointment. For example, I think it was 2 years that I had to wait like 2 or 3 weeks just to get an appointment. But now my husband was able to book the appointment to get a visa for the next week. So I guess situation starts to be more stable. The other problem connected to traveling is that Russian cards do not work abroad now, because Russia was disconnected from SWIFT, this American kind of system that I guess make all cards in different countries work. Now Russian cards just don't work because Russia was disconnected from SWIFT. And it's a little more complicated in the way that you have to take cash. Here it's not a problem to change rubles for dollars or for euros, and then you just, in Europe Union, you just have to pay with cash. It works in the same way also for the cards that were issued abroad, that you cannot pay with those cards here in Russia, because again we're kind of disconnected now from all world banking system. But inside of Russia we don't have any problems with payment. Of course Apple Pay don't work, but Russian banks invented stickers, special payment stickers that you just put in your phone and you pay in the same way as you were paying with Apple Pay. And also now a really popular thing is to pay with QR code, is when you scan the code and you pay with it from your phone. And also one interesting thing, and actually this feature was created by the main bank of Russia, Sberbank, and it allows you to pay with your smile. So I guess they use the biometrical features of your face for you to pay. Just there are special terminals, and when it's time to pay, you just come, it scans your smile. It's actually not necessary to smile, it scans your face, and by this the payment is done. Personally, I do not really trust these things. I know that it works good and they say that it's 100% safe, but I don't know, I just prefer to use old ways of payment with card or with QR code or with sticker, because I don't know, it's also convenient. I don't have any problems with that. Russian people also face some changes in technologies and services. For example, as I already said, Apple Pay doesn't work anymore. Netflix, Spotify, they're not working in Russia anymore unless you turn on a VPN. And VPNs work good, they're all stable. I personally have my VPN. I pay for my VPN around 50 rubles per month. It's like less than $1 per month. It's pretty cheap and it's really stable. It gives you really stable connection. And also I can tell you that even before Netflix, Spotify, it was not something really popular in Russia, because first of all, you don't have that many movies in Netflix, for example, in Russian, and Russian people normally watch movies in Russian. My family, we're kind of strange family because my husband is from Latin America, he speaks Spanish and we communicate with him in English. That's why all movies we watch in English, and now we watch Netflix in English with VPN. And the other problem was that, okay, these services left, but also it's not possible to pay with Russian card anymore. That's why also people just stopped using them. But again, in Russia, from that time, people started to pay more attention to the streaming platforms that are local, Russian streaming platforms. We have a lot actually. We have Okko, we have Kinopoisk, we have Eevee, and many different ones. Of course, there are just movies in Russian. The other things that really bothers me a lot and what I really suffer from is that also Instagram, recently WhatsApp, and YouTube, unfortunately, are not working without VPN. And I mean, you can say, okay, but you just use VPN, what's the problem? Yes, but VPN takes a little more charge of my battery of the phone. That's why I prefer to turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. My husband uses for all the day the VPN because of work. But me, yes, so if I want to watch YouTube or open just see my Instagram or write a message on WhatsApp, only with VPN. But in Russia, we have had different other messengers before as well. For example, VK, Vkontakte. It's kind of a social platform. I was using it before Instagram, before WhatsApp, before any other messenger. It was like the former, like Facebook, but in Russia. And in this platform you can share posts, pictures, there is a messenger, so people continue using it. It is stable. And also we continue using Telegram. I know that even in the USA, in Europe, you guys know what Telegram is, but the thing is that lately they start to say that Telegram will be also blocked. So for now, people do not really use WhatsApp. My parents don't use WhatsApp because, I don't know, they don't want to install VPNs. I don't know, they just use Telegram. That's why with my family, I'm in contact and we are using Telegram. And of course, just normal calls. But with my aunt, for example, who lives in Italy, I use WhatsApp. We've talked about online streaming platforms, but also here is the thing that also not all the movies are now shown in cinema as well. For example, third Avatar, you can watch in cinema. There were some rumors that it's not in a good quality or something, but no, it's good, all is good. But again, now not all the movies are shown in Russian cinema because of the sanctions and I guess some policies of production studios. And the last but not least, you guys are actually interested in which cars we use here in Russia and whether we use cars because our public transport is really good and cheap. And that is true, but of course we also use cars. We use Japanese cars a lot. For example, my family, my husband and I, we have Mitsubishi. My parents have Kia and Haval. Haval is a Chinese brand. It's kind of more premium brand, not just like a normal one. But what is happening here is that when the war was started, there were sanctions and all European cars, they started to be more expensive because, well, first of all, yes, there were some disruptions with cars delivery and people were saying that, oh, it's not going to be possible to buy European car like Mercedes, BMW anymore. And we have quite a lot of these cars here. We have also Teslas, we have Nissan, which brand, Japanese or Korean? I don't know. Nissan, Hyundai, Subaru, Renault. So we have all these brands. But people with money, of course, they prefer to show their status, to buy Mercedes, BMW, Teslas, Bentley. And the thing is that, yes, I don't know, it's not car producers, but these centers for cars where you buy cars, they had some difficulties. They were struggling, that it was in the beginning kind of difficult to deliver cars from Europe or from where they deliver a car to Russia. But now again, with alternative supply chains, it is possible to buy European car or any car here. But these cars started to be more expensive, of course. And maybe even the price is not a big problem, but the problem is maintenance of these cars, because again, all the spare cars that you need in order to fix something in the car, all these details, they're delivered again from third countries and they're as well more expensive. So while the cars themselves are still available, the ownership of these cars starts to be more expensive. And that is why in the market there was a huge shift. And now we have quite a lot of different Chinese brands. And if in the beginning, like 5 years ago when all this started, people were really suspicious about Chinese cars because, unfortunately, Chinese is not always good quality, even though in last years, lately, Chinese things can have really good quality. They can be really impressive. And the thing is that before people didn't really rely, they couldn't rely on these cars because the brand was new and the brand was Chinese. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Chinese reputation in some ways can be a little not that stable. But now I think like 70% of the cars on the roads, they are Chinese, and they're very, very cool Chinese cars. Honestly, they're really competitive, and most of the time they have more features. They are more like innovative in the way that they have, like I'm telling you, a lot of different features, even the ones that you cannot find in European cars, or you can, but in some very, very high level cars that will cost a lot. So Chinese cars, they really give a lot of value for money. And again, there are different like levels of Chinese cars. There are cheaper ones, there are expensive ones, there are luxury Chinese brands that will cost like Mercedes. But now, because again, it's easier to, in case something happens, to fix this car, it's easier with a warranty. I guess for European cars, they do not give warranty now because of the situation, but Chinese cars, in this way, they win. So this is just a reality. Russia with Chinese cars. And of course, we also have our own brands of cars, for example, Lada or UAZ. But the thing is that I don't know why, but in Russia, people don't really like these brands because they don't use that much innovation. Also we have Moskvich. Moskvich looks pretty good actually. But again, they are not as good as Chinese brands are. So what I see as a Russian person living in Russia, that market has not been collapsed, but it has been reorganized. New brands appear, new local technologies are developed. From what I see, sanctions pushed Russian market to focus more on local providers and local production. Instead of relying just on import, a lot of domestic alternatives started to appear. In some ways, market started to feel more self-sufficient now. But it's also true that certain things started to be more complicated and more expensive for ordinary people. So I cannot say that Russia just didn't notice all the sanctions. No, of course we did notice. So these were main areas that I, as a normal person living in Russia, interact with, and that's why I have seen change in them. I hope this perspective was interesting for you, and maybe it even added some nuance to the way the life in Russia usually is seen. So thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next videos, and please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them below in the comments. I will be more than happy to comment on them.